I just finished watching the press conference for this show right here, the Frank Warren show this Saturday at the O2 Arena, headlined by Martin Murray versus Roberto Garcia. Obviously, it was originally supposed to be Billy Joe Saunders defending his WBO World Middleweight title against Martin Murray, but he pulled out in questionable circumstances, let's just say that. Roberto Garcia has stepped in to face Murray instead, topping the bill. But there were a couple of, or there are a couple of matchups on the bill which had entertaining press conference exchanges, let's just put it that way. One of them was this Ohara Davies, Paul Kamanga exchange at the press conference. That was pretty entertaining. And the other one was the Daniel Dubois, Tom Little press conference exchange, because Tom Little actually managed to get Daniel Dubois to say a few words, because Daniel Dubois is a man of very few words. He's a very shy, quiet, reserved, introvert type of person. Tom Little has been goading Daniel Dubois in the entire build-up to this fight, and he finally, at the press conference, managed to get Daniel Dubois to say something. And Daniel Dubois was, a little irritated by Tom Little calling him boxing's version of Michael Jackson. He said, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And Tom Little said, well, basically, you are your dad's puppet. This is essentially what Tom Little was saying. You're your dad's puppet. You've been pushed into boxing by your dad because he's living vicariously through you. Yeah, that's why I'm calling you boxing's version of Michael Jackson. This is essentially what Tom Little was saying. Daniel Dubois didn't like it. Daniel Dubois is an enigma to me, and I've mentioned it on several occasions, and we're going to find out exactly what he's all about in due course as his career progresses. But for now, he remains an enigma. Right? We'll see what he's about. And that's why I'm interested in this Tom Little Daniel Dubois fight, because in terms of physical ability, obviously Daniel Dubois is a much more powerful fighter. He's much more imposing. He's got the strength. He's got the youth. Not like Tom Little's an old guy, but he's a good 10 years older than Daniel Dubois. Dubois is only 20. So from a physical perspective, Dubois is the man with all the talent, and he's the one being groomed for stardom. But Tom Little mentally is more developed than Daniel Dubois, in a fighting sense at least, and maybe even in a life experience sense. We don't know. As I say, Dubois is an enigma. But Little is a trash talker. He's a guy who, if there are any chinks in your armor mentally, he might be able to exploit them. He might be able to get under your skin, get you to come off your game plan, and exploit that to his advantage. He couldn't do it in one of his recent fights against Hrgovic, because Hrgovic, I don't think, really speaks any English, or very little English. But with Daniel Dubois, he's got a guy who he views as mentally immature. And because of that, he thinks he can get under his skin, and he will be able to get him off his game plan. He will be able to put doubts in his head, both before the opening bell and after the opening bell. And he's been talking about all kinds of different things with regards to Daniel Dubois, allegedly being dropped in sparring, allegedly quitting in sparring. I mean, they say that Tom Little has been saying that he didn't have the flu or whatever it was. There was a certain fight, I think, that was postponed or whatever the case may be with Daniel Dubois. And Tom Little's been saying, well, that wasn't because of Daniel Dubois having the flu, which was the official reason, or a cold. It was because he got so badly beaten up by Hrgovic in sparring that, whatever had to take place. And also he's been saying that Dubois quit in sparring against Martin Bakole. So he's been pulling out all the stops to try and get under Daniel Dubois' skin. And I want to see if Dubois can pass this mental test, if he can keep it all together, stay on the job, not let all the trash talk get to him, and take care of Tom Little. We'll see. Again, technically, on paper, talent-wise, he should be able to do it. But is he ready mentally? We'll find out. I'm interested in that. And then Paul Kamanga versus Ohara Davies. Ohara Davies, we know, is a big trash talker. He enjoys trash talking. He sells himself through trash talking. He makes his money that way, as so many fighters today do. And I personally like trash talk. So, I'm not one of these people who's always angry when they hear a fighter talking trash. I like Ohara Davies's trash talk. I like trash talk in general. Some fighters are good at it. Other fighters, not so good at it. But Ohara Davies, I think, is relatively good at it. But his opponent here, Paul Kamanga, he's no slouch either. And he didn't exactly trash talk Ohara Davies, but I don't know, how could I describe it? Just look at the look on his face there. That was his attitude towards Ohara Davies. He had this kind of cheeky, like nonchalant attitude towards Davis, where he said, Davis is average at best. He was dismissive of him without being flat out rude or saying anything controversial. He was dismissive of Davis, and he said, this guy is not that good. I don't think he can go 10 rounds with me. He's average at best. And Davis came back at him and did what Ohara Davies does. So I enjoyed this exchange. I wasn't expecting Kamanga to come out with all the stuff that he came out with. Obviously, he's still trying to sell tickets, so we don't know whether this is all just bluster. I can't imagine that this show is sold out. So I'm sure all the fighters have been put on notice by Frank Warren that we need to try to sell some more tickets here. And fighters do sell tickets themselves quite often in boxing. So maybe it's just selling tickets. Maybe he's just a guy who has the gift of the gab, because he is coming in at short notice. Remember, this was supposed to be a different opponent for Ohara Davies, a domestic clash, whereas now Kamanga stepped in on short notice, I think 2 weeks notice or less. So, remains to be seen whether he's just selling tickets or whether he really means what he's saying. But if we look at Kamanga's record, he's 21-1. His only loss was back in 2016 on points. He lost the UD on points to this individual in Russia, who I've never heard of before. 31-2 with 8 KOs. Okay, never heard of this guy before. A welterweight, apparently. Who has he fought? He fought Kamanga. Yeah, this is not a guy I've heard of before, but, on paper, that's a decent record, I guess. 31-2, but with only 8 knockouts. Not a very prolific puncher, it has to be said, although he did beat Kamanga on points. He didn't knock him out. So, yeah, Kamanga, a little bit of an unknown, or maybe a lot of an unknown, but it doesn't necessarily mean he can't fight, although it's a little worrying that all of his fights, bar 3, have been in South Africa, where he's based. He is originally from Congo, but he has lived in South Africa, I think, since he was 10, and he's now 24 years old. So he's lived in South Africa 24 years, got a very strong South African accent, by the way. That kind of surprised me when I heard him speaking, Kamanga, because he doesn't talk he doesn't have a typical black South African accent. Yeah, he's got an Afrikaans accent. He's got the accent of a white South African, which kind of threw me off for a second when I heard him talking. But yeah, he's kind of a funny type of character. So hopefully he can fight as well as he can banter, and then we might get some competition from Ohara Davies, or for Ohara Davies, sorry. So yeah, looking forward to those 2 fights. And the other fight on the undercard, I mean, Roberto Garcia versus Martin Murray, it could be good, but I've never really been a fan of Martin Murray as a fighter. He's a cool guy and everything. He's a tough guy. But as a fighter, I've just never really enjoyed watching him, So that fight is neither here nor there for me. But then again, it will probably turn out to be the fight of the night. I don't know. I'm just telling you my anticipation levels for this show. And the top of the bill, I'm not really that fussed about that fight at the moment. Anthony Yarde against Darius Sek. Here's what I'll say about Anthony Yarde right now. I think he's a precocious talent. I've got full respect for Anthony Yarde and his manager / trainer, Tunde Ajayi. Full respect. I don't mean any disrespect at him, either of them. And I'll just say that I think Yarde is very talented, and I look forward to him being in a competitive fight sometime in the future. All right, that's what I'll say about that. So, yeah, other than that, not much else to say about the card. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are there any other fights here you're looking forward to? And what are you expecting in terms of the outcomes of all these fights? And by the way, have any of you actually seen Paul Kamanga fight? Because I've never seen him fight, I'll be honest. I just want to see whether he can give Ohara Davies any kind of challenge, because he is a late substitute. And talking about challenge, Daniel Dubois might be in the Guinness Book of World Records for using the word challenge more in one interview than anybody else, because that's definitely Daniel Dubois' favorite word. He's always talking about the challenge. He's up for the challenge. So anyway, yeah, we'll see how it goes, people. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Here's Satman, I'm out.